There we go.
All your fans want to see you, you know?
All three of them.
Yeah, you're probably gonna want to turn that one on.
Here comes Jeff.
No, they're trying to figure out.
Hi, Seth. Welcome.
There, Seth.
We started.
Did I do it right?
All right,
We realized that we were.
all right, now I'm really calling into order. All right, so welcome to the September 12th meeting of the Megunticook River Citizens Advisory Committee. I want to thank my co-chair, Ray Anderson, whom I stood up last week to organize this meeting because I had a veterinary emergency. This is select board members. We don't have healthcare. So we need to go veterinarians. That's why I couldn't attend our
Take it
meeting.
up with the town manager.
No, thank you, Ray. I
That's
know,
okay, that's okay.
I know you had a good meeting with Bina and
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
we came up with a great agenda.
Good.
So today, we're gonna do a little switch in the agenda and Bina's gonna master that because we just thought about a more logical way of organizing the conversation. But the first thing we're gonna do is, first of all, we have public comments, right?
So we decided to do public comment and questions at the end
At the
based on
end, okay.
how everyone, I think. If you
Okay.
guys want to change that, we can, but we left at least 15 minutes at the end for if folks want to comment, ask questions, and I think the idea being that we won't answer all the questions right there, but
Okay.
we can take them and think about them and respond.
And if we have questions through Zoom, we'll monitor that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first time we do
I
this.
have a little question about that. I don't remember deciding on doing that or not.
I think it was an email chain that went around.
At the end of the meeting
At the
last
end of
time, I
the-
felt like that was the
At the end-
general consensus, but
We didn't vote on it though.
no,
No, at the end of the meeting,
I thought we were just going to discuss it.
we can, let's
Later.
discuss it.
let's discuss
So
it.
I just wanted to make sure I
Fine.
was. Email or
Go ahead.
something? Oh, discuss it now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just do it. Let's get it out.
What do you I'd like to hear what other people have to say about it. Does everybody think it's a good idea? I'm a little hesitant just knowing how emotional this topic is and how, I think it's a great idea, first of all, to open it up to conversation at some point. Do we want to do it in every meeting? Is 15 minutes the time? I think those are the questions I have about it. And will that invite more people to be more involved, which is a good thing, but also sometimes it might get in the way of getting our work done. So these are questions I have. I haven't really made any decisions in my mind about it, but I think it would be great if we could talk about it.
I think that's fair. And I think that was sort of the reason why we didn't initially, so that this committee could have, safe space to have these conversations. So I'm happy to.
But this is an answer to a lot of people coming to the meetings we've organized in the public outreach saying we would love to ask questions. So I think it's I think we have to the committee has to find a way to address this without derailing the really important work that you guys are doing in a very small amount of time. So
Yeah,
these
we
were the
have enough
constraints.
time in our meetings already to get things done. I mean, we extended our meetings to 2 hours because we were worried about time and we were not getting as much done as we wanted to, but so, is 15 minutes less helpful for us in that way? I mean, is it an issue? Maybe is 10 minutes enough to have people asking questions?
Well,
Right,
you,
go ahead.
I think originally on the agenda, you had it down for 10 minutes and I suggested 15. And if it squeezes down to 10, I think that's going to be fine too. But I think one of the things that we have talked about a lot, and it's one of the data gaps, if you will, what do the people of Camden want to know? And I don't think we really have heard enough from the people of Camden as to what they want to know about what this committee is doing, what the objectives are, et cetera. And it'd be at least an opportunity to hear what their concerns are. And as Bina said, or Sophie said, we're not going to have answers for them right away. maybe we will, maybe there's some easy questions, but there'll be some other ones that make us think more about what they want to know and how we can get the answer for them. So I think it's very worthwhile to have an open, even just 15 minutes at the end of our meetings.
And I know at the end of the last meeting, I stated that I thought doing it at the beginning of the meeting could be helpful because it might allow us to tie what's on our agenda to those questions.
Mhm.
That some of them anyway could be answered right away, rather than having people wait and then they had to go online, that sort of thing. I think we can,
I
I
just,
mean, you all have done it, I think we can limit the amount of time that gets absorbed each meeting by making the ground rules clear, that it's not to make statements, it's to ask questions.
Yeah.
And facilitate a free type of. And experiment, I mean, you can try it at the beginning or the end and then switch it.
yeah.
It's at the beginning then, if you don't have any questions, because I would imagine people don't know about this, and how are we gonna tell people about it? You know, and I'm a little worried, nobody's gonna really do this, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get one question, then we can move on to our agenda, which, so I think that idea of starting out with questions might be
Perfect.
the best.
Yeah.
So do we, Ray, you want to say something? No.
A few things,
Yeah.
thank you. So I think one thing that I think we could have in this conversation is we're going to provide a forum for people to submit their questions and comments online in a way that isn't going to get misconstrued when it's given orally in a meeting like this. Submitting it in writing through the website or by email, I think, is the way to do it. If we do decide that we want to have a public comment component to our regular meetings, I did circulate as a model what the school board does,
Yeah.
which is it divides it up into public comments that relate to, it's not a perfect apples to apples comparison because it actually contemplates public input or non-board input about topics that are on the agenda. But if they wanted, someone wants to come up and start railing about one of those things that other school boards are having to deal with these days, they're strictly capped at, a certain amount of, I forget if it's like 2 minutes or something like that. And it's right at the front of the meeting. So part of that is that you don't create an expectation that the board is going to respond to anything that you're just going to say while you're there. You come and you say your piece and then you sit down. I don't want any expectation that this is going to become a Q&A or a back and forth. They're going to expect on-the-fly responses from us. So, I mean, if the right kind of ground rules are laid, tight time, both for the whole thing and individual comments, I'd be okay with that, I guess. Beginning or end, I don't know.
So if we limited it to 2 minutes per person for a total of 10 minutes at the beginning of each meeting, how do people feel about that?
With the additional condition that nobody asks questions. This is not about them saying, well, I want to know what the board or the committee believes about X.
Yeah.
You can say that, but guess what we're not going to do is answer.
But it's also that we don't want comments, so this is a trick,
Yeah.
I'm beginning to really think this is a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down, but
So traditionally,
worry about it.
public comments in front of boards are not answered for one simple reason. It's because we publish the agenda so people are aware of what we're going to be discussing. So having a space where people can ask questions in the sense of what other information do you need? Would you like the committee to look into so that you further your understanding of the issue at hand? I think would be great, would be a great way. We could also have a way to have people submit it and have one of the board members read the questions received, beforehand, saying, well, since the last meeting of the committee, we've received those questions and put them in the public. So people know that we're addressing those questions. So maybe this issue of having a public comment section requires a little bit more work on our part to really structure it so that it's a plus for the committee, right? It gives us more information on what type of information people are looking for and not turn it into a public ranting section, because that's not helpful at all.
So I wonder,
Yes.
playing on that, whether we can't say to people, submit your questions, and we read those questions at the beginning of our meeting. These are the questions that have come in from our last meeting that people are seeking the answers to. And then that sort of gives us, oh, okay, fine, we move on. We don't answer them right then and there, but at least people are then knowing that they're being heard.
Yep.
That we're reading what's coming in either on email, or if someone wants to leave a question at the town hall. It doesn't matter,
Sometimes
right?
we get questions that the answers are pretty easy, so honestly, sometimes we just answer them.
Yep,
That which is fine.
Okay.
But I guess I'm saying if there are questions that come in that we don't have answers to yet,
Yeah.
we read those perhaps at the beginning.
And that
of
is
the
one
meeting
thing that's
and
on our agenda for sort of the big questions we got from the NOAA event of how we wanna approach those and how we wanna respond to those and what that looks like, so perfect.
but we could also say, well, for this question, the Q and A has already addressed it. For that question, this is a great question, and the committee wants to take it on it. Just go maybe one step further, saying how we're gonna answer those questions.
I really like that idea. I think that will create some clarity too,
And then people, I think, know their questions are being heard.
Exactly,
Because we
exactly.
read them out and we say, this question has come across. We have an answer to this, or we don't have an answer to this. Thank you for asking us. We'll look into it.
And so
Yeah.
can that be the role of the vice chair to read those questions?
It's a good idea.
And people can write out, to sit here for 10 minutes before the meeting and write out the question for us. Is that it? Okay,
They could do that, they could submit them on the website, or they could leave them at the town hall if they want to, or at the library. And I know Nick and Marinus would allow that as well.
When we review and analyze and come up with
Mhm.
considered responses over the course of the next month.
Yep.
If not the
Right,
next
because
week.
it could be that you'll have some questions that are all similar.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I will say that's been the theme so
Yeah,
far, questions that
right.
we've, most of them are already on the Q and A on the website, but people just haven't taken the time to look, at, which is totally fair and normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm gonna bring this discussion to an end, because I think there's a consensus here.
Yeah.
All right, so do you guys want to vote on this?
I think. Yeah, okay.
All right, so somebody makes a motion? Rick, you're so puzzled.
I just don't understand exactly what we've come up with, except that we don't have a general idea as to, I don't think we want to go forward with anything, right?
Okay, so you don't want to vote on this today, so couldn't.
No, I don't know that. I
Okay,
just
so-
need to
Do
hear-
you,
the details.
do you want to have it written down as a proposal in an email, and you do an email vote?
Yes.
Yeah, that's better.
Before the next
Yeah.
meeting, so that we can really refine the format? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I was actually just saying, I don't understand what we were voting on at that point, but I mean, I like Susan's idea.
Yeah,
I don't know,
abstract.
I thought that was-
isn't that complicated?
Right.
I mean, what you all just said, I thought was pretty straightforward.
So
Which is
that,
that-
so that we
People can
encourage,
submit questions, and the vice chair
Mhm.
at the next meeting will read those questions. It
Yeah.
sets a model for people.
Mhm.
And also reassurance that the questions will get answered. Rick, that's my understanding.
Right.
And are being
We were voting on. And
heard.
Okay.
so are you making a motion?
sure,
Is
what I
there,
just said.
So, so she's made a motion, can somebody say?
is there a limit to the question?
That's, I mean, we
Okay.
experienced.
I'll get it later. Okay.
If there are 25 questions and you don't want to telegraph it, then you just have to hold on to them, or we take our chances. And if there are that many questions.
What
um,
happens if we get, every meeting, we get the same type of questions, we read again, or do we
No,
say,
no.
that was already
No, that's the same thing we've done with the written
before?
questions.
Okay, so only if they're brand new.
I think 3/4 of them are going to be like, what being a character as,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey, why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Read the Q and A.
No, but I think we have to make the rule clear to people also that,
Yeah.
that it's questions that can help further the work of the committee in gaining an understanding of an issue that we maybe have overlooked.
Yeah,
I
but
suggest,
the wording of that would be very important.
right,
So that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
so maybe
yeah,
we
that's what I think we
word
should-
this and
Yeah.
circulate it
So
to.
we will not do public comment
Yeah.
questions tonight because we just used that 15 minutes right now.
okay.
I'll send an email and-
Excellent, but we have
Okay.
a good resolution. All right, so next item on our agenda is the approval of the August 8th, 2023 meeting minutes. Have you
Okay.
read them?
Yeah, and I'd like to make two additions,
Okay,
possible. The section is here, if you go down and there's little things, where Rick asked, is it a strict letter? And Roger's answered, letter's open-ended. And if I recall, I had then read the letter from the attorneys for the Montgomery family, where it stated repairs to the sluice gate and the top of the dam, and not anything to do with the cleanup of the sediment there. So I would like to have that entered into the minutes. And the other thing that I see missing is, I thought we took a vote on, as a committee, to vote on not taking a position on accepting or not, or rejecting the Montgomery dam.
I thought we
Nothing.
decided to not vote on either, anything.
Yeah.
I'll rewatch, I'll
Rewatch that?
rewatch
Okay,
the
fine.
video, because
Okay.
I remember no one wanted to vote on anything, this is how I
Okay.
remember it, but I will go watch the video
All
to
right.
make sure.
Okay, fine.
What, sorry?
On the, it was raised as to whether or not we were going to take a position on the Montgomery family donation.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I think we voted not to be in favor or against, just to be
right.
neutral on it. And I thought we voted on that.
I don't think.
And I
we
thought it
voted.
was unanimous.
No, I think you
Audrey
agreed.
mentioned that it was going to be talked about at the select board.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, we'll double check.
Yeah.
Double check that,
Cool.
okay?
For what
Because
it's
it
worth,
was,
I think it's captured in Venus' comment at the bottom of that page.
Yeah.
The last one.
Mhm. right, but if it actually was a vote, it should be in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll rewatch it.
Okay.
We'll,
Thank you.
we'll,
All right,
so we'll vote on that at the next meeting.
right,
The minutes.
Okay, the minutes. Okay,
okay.
all right.
Other than that, can I move to approve the minutes?
No, we'll
No,
table the
because
minutes
we
until
don't-
we'll have to go back and look at it.
All right,
Because we need to go back and see.
okay, fine.
So.
Sorry.
Any other comments on the minutes stuff? Sorry.
Not me.
No.
Audrey, you want to give a town manager report?
Yeah, so, I went to the Conservation Commission's meeting last week because there were a few staff members who were taking vacations, so I went to help them with their technology for the meeting and, listen to them talk about some of the work that they were doing. So they've done a lot of work that, I think really, some of it kind of overlaps, some of it dovetails really nicely with the work that this committee's doing, and they asked me about the river committee's work, so I think at some point getting members of the Conservation Commission in to, just talk with them about what you're doing and what they're doing and how you might be able to coordinate and support each other would be beneficial. One thing they've mapped a lot of invasive species. They're starting to do more detailed stormwater mapping, and that's really impactful to the river because, the river's largest stormwater conveyance system that we have in the town. So a lot of great work that I think is gonna be helpful for all of you and, other things that you're doing that are gonna be helpful for the Conservation Commission. I attended a meeting that Deb set up with the Knox Mill, what's the name of the association? Knox Mill East Condominium. East Condominium Association. So there were a couple of reasons why I attended that meeting. One, as a proud owner, the town is proud owner of 3 commercial condo units in there now because of tax lien foreclosure. So we discussed that a lot, but the part that's relevant to all of you is that they wanted to talk about the river project, and they of course wanted to talk about the Knox Mill Dam and that sort of segment of the river. And I was really excited to hear how involved they want to be. And we talked about the presentation that Matt Bernier and Jamie gave. And, they were sort of discussing funding opportunities and how we really have, quite the chance to receive some of that federal funding to do, like a demonstration project. We're talking about moving that forward, even before this effort is all wrapped up, would be something that would be of interest to a lot of the federal funding bodies. And that group of people were very enthusiastic about removing the Knox Mill Dam and doing a wetland restoration project in that area. And, other work that would need to be done to the buildings there, the structures to make that project possible. They were very enthusiastic about being the demonstration project and participating in this effort. And they like the idea of, being moved into some sort of participatory design process as well. So I was really, pretty energized coming out of that meeting by the, level of, enthusiasm that group had for, just being involved and having, something that's near where they live be kind of at the forefront of that.
But
So
they do, as you know, from the one email you got and one I got, some of them do want to know what exactly is involved. I
yes.
mean, the email I got, but is this a demonstration or, what?
Yeah, I think there was for that one person, they didn't come
I just
away
want to
with
know, are you going to
clear-
blow the dam up as a demonstration?
Yeah.
Next week.
Fireworks.
That's kind of how they, but I mean, I think it was pretty clear from everybody else in the room. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that have, a similar, sentiment to that, but most of the people in the room seemed really clear that it would be a construction project and they wanted to be involved.
Mhm.
So I thought that that would be a good opportunity to, bring this back to this group and talk about.
Was this a group that you said had previously not met very much or hadn't met at all? Or is that a different?
No, that's the pond.
Okay.
And that's a whole separate issue that.
Okay.
Is probably more in terms of complexity or interest, and more interesting legally than it is actually.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, most of the owners in my building didn't even know there's an association. I mean, there's a legal
A separate
document.
association.
Everybody who got a copy of the declaration, this was the master. It's a whole section on it, but nobody read the stuff that actually directly applies to them, never learned the mill stuff. So, it's news to them and the mill owners have the majority vote on whatever happens
Mhm.
to the pond, the mill, whatever you want to call it. So, but that part has to be established before anything can be done. I mean, the attorneys are clear about that.
Yeah.
So last part, yesterday Klein Schmidt, which is an engineering firm that specializes in dams, came to do inspections of our high hazard dams, so East, West, and Seabright. And while they were doing those inspections, they told our public works director that they also do like a free assessment of fish passage options at dams that they inspect.
Mhm.
So of course, we signed right up for that because why wouldn't we? So I think at some point when we get the inspection report back from Kleinschmidt and their, analysis of fish passage options, it might be good to go over the report with this group.
How soon do you expect to get that report?
I don't know, I have to ask our public works director. I wouldn't imagine it would come back in as soon as that.
Now, they did both the east, west and the Seabright Dam, all three of them?
Yes.
Okay,
High hazard only,
yeah, right.
and that's it.
I'm gonna add one thing, before I give you the hand, I think another meeting that would be interesting is the harbor committee. We talked about the conservation committee, but the harbor committee, because the mouth of the river technically, as Tyler reminded us, goes to East Point. I think it would be super interesting also, because they want to know what we're doing, so, well, we'll put it on the agenda and try to make that happen. Certainly.
I was just wondering if there's any update on the 200K.
Oh, yes, I do have an update on that. So, as of yesterday, we got, a draft agreement with the family that donated the money and, a scope of work. So the scope of work is split into two parts, so it's masonry repairs to the masonry section of the dam that's granite block and the sluiceway that connects into the seawall. So it would be just, joint repairs on that area. And then it would be on the little island area. So the reason why that's so overgrown and hasn't been maintained, there's just no safe, easy way to access it. So with this donation, they would build like a temporary bridge that would go out to that, and it would be like a seasonal bridge. So for, all seasons except for the winter, we would put it back and people would be able to walk out to that little island area from this public landing. And then that area will be landscaped and we'll be able to maintain it in perpetuity. So those are sort of the two things that you know, they were amenable to and aren't going to have any negative impact on, you know, any ability to do anything with that site.
Or
in
the
the
grant.
future.
Or the grant. Yeah.
So,
Audrey, do you know, are they planning to do additional plantings out there or just tidy it up because
I
they're?
think that we want to do some additional plantings.
Because the Conservation Commission will be interested in those being native.
Yes.
Cool.
Right.
Thank you, Audra. Any more questions on Audra's report? Moving on. Survey discussion. Dina, do I?
Did everyone get their postcard?
Yeah, I got my postcard and insert actually. I did it.
Good job. So I asked for an update on the survey results and we don't have, or not the results, but how many we have so far. And we're under 100, or like 97. Most being through email. There's a good amount that are from the postcard itself, a decent amount from, so it's like 15 from the website, 15 from press, 50 from the email, and then about 30 from the mailing. So we need to get the word out more for people to take the survey. I would love to hear your ideas. Lauren just sent me, also, I forgot to introduce, this is like number one thing on my, I'm so sorry. Julia. If you were at the NOAA event, you probably saw her, maybe met her. Julia started working, Julia Maine, her last name is Maine, M-A-I-N-E, so. But she started working with us a couple weeks ago and she's already doing incredible work and we're very excited and grateful to have her along, so.
Could we actually do it just,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
Just say your name.
all right, Ray and Grayson,
Tyler Smith.
Chris Nolan. Rick Backer.
Courtney Smith, Deb Chapman, Susan Powell.
Seth Caleb,
Elfie Owen.
your boss.
All right, thank you. Just helpful for knowing.
She's good at her names. She actually just did a beautiful, she synthesized the feasibility study. I think that was a big thing that came out of the NOAA event was I felt like Matt Bernier kept being like, you should read the feasibility study. And no one wants to read all that. So she made a beautiful 2-page graphic. My clerk is reviewing it to make sure it's up to snuff. And then as soon as it's ready, you guys will have it. But yeah, she's amazing at science communication. So stay tuned on more. But yes, thank you. But Lauren, who's back at school, she is still working for us a little bit and she sent out a lot of great ideas of how we should get the post or the survey out more. She actually said that you walk around a lot, so you should
It's always-
So I should run.
she said you're always out walking, so get people to fill out the survey. No.
No, we should all wear t-shirts saying, ask me about. the
Yeah,
survey.
QR code on everyone's.
That's great. I love that.
But yeah, I think we need to put more posters up, maybe have some like neighborhood socials, like survey parties, and maybe if anyone attends a church, you could take a thing there, put some surveys up in the library, paper copies as well as like the poster with the QR code. And I think I sent you, or maybe did Susan, did you get those papers to Deb? Okay, did you put them up in your?
Yep, and they were taken down,
Oh.
but you give me another one, I'll put it back up.
So I'll try and pop up here and
Do you put something on Facebook?
no. That'd be great. Who does that? Janice?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Or
can
you,
put the
yeah.
survey on Facebook. I think it would be, and it's on the town website.
That's a really good idea.
Can we put one in the window of the town hall?
Yeah, big QR code on the.
Great. Yeah,
I wondered, can kids at school answer the survey?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering whether some of the teachers, like the biology teacher or whatever, either in the high school or in the middle school. You know, they're our future generation. Let them answer the questions and see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I would love to hear more from. high
Yeah,
school.
worship
Yeah.
school would be an option.
Yeah.
SEA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to do something in school. It's such a good idea. No, but
We're all
we always hear from adults, but it's such a good point to make sure that we have the next generation idea and point of view. How do we organize something? in
Well, one of the
schools?
things on the gap analysis is to talk to the Stewardship Education Alliance Board,
Right,
and we need to do that.
okay,
Mhm.
so we should actualize that item point.
Let me.
Yeah, I can take.
I'm not part of the age group that votes
Yeah.
the most in the US, so that's the perk of getting older.
I forget what the question, is one of the first questions, are you a Camden resident or something to that effect?
Yeah.
And if you say no, it's, sorry, thank you, please drive through, or is it,
I think it's, are you a Camden resident or business owner, but do you
Okay.
think we should open it?
well, I'm just curious for the kids
I
component.
know.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I immediately, when I was thinking, oh, well, shoot, the ninth grade, I forget, the geoscience teacher at the high school.
Yeah,
And immediately I thought, oh, well, only 30% or 40% are Camden
And then,
residents.
so that's, yeah.
Right.
Does that matter?
Yeah.
Do we care what some, I don't care, but do we want to invite comment from? say,
we can
Appleton
make a
students?
special
Survey, yeah.
survey for them, and then
Yeah.
we know that it's capturing a different group, and then, like, bring that into the data differently.
All the kids, any
Yeah.
kids, yeah, okay, that would make sense.
Cause you can make. it
Yeah,
their
Marsh
own
at school and
student,
all this, you know,
or their
Yeah.
own paper survey or whatever.
So we didn't send anything out to taxpayers per se, just residents.
Yeah, just went to every door, the postcard.
Because taxpayers obviously will have a stake in it because whatever is decided.
Okay, yeah,
but if you went to every door, by definition, you went to all taxpayers, right?
that's why I'm wondering is who you're thinking that it missed.
That would then.
Well, people who own property here,
Not necessarily.
that,
Yeah.
you know,
What do you
don't
mean?
live here, that don't. live
Well,
here.
if someone owned the property and then had renters,
Right,
the renter would receive the.
But they could,
Okay.
yeah. That's okay.
Presumably, any tax increase is gonna be swallowed up by the rent anyway, right? So,
So, is
Okay, so if
W,
you guys have more, sorry,
yeah, radio,
radio,
Hmm.
okay. So do people wanna take some ownership of doing these type of outreach things since you all live here?
I can definitely take it to the schools.
Okay.
So would you want to
So
be
I'll get-
making,
I'll-
yeah,
I'll get with you and, make you a different QR code.
okay,
with the Google.
Mhm.
can you put together a QR code with some recommended text to put into a Facebook post like on our individual pages?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We could email it to our
Friends and family.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you set up a.
okay, I'll send you as a. prompt.
actually, I bet that would work well.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah, I really think
Our
that's
news
social media
travels,
is the best tool.
Yeah.
There's no issue with same person getting the same thing from about 3 or 4 people, right?
No, I mean, people might take it 16 times and that's
Mhm.
a lot of waste of time on their.
Right.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
fine. No, that is-
But
Zach
Okay.
told us, the guy we were working at, UNH, he told us that it's just very unlikely that people take it more than once in his experience with surveys.
Right.
It's, there is that
You'd have to be
tiny
like
risk,
very
but
passionate.
it's very
Right.
rare, yeah. I guess he says, he assumes that people just don't take the time. And there's really nothing on our, there's no use in our case to take it more than once, really.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
It's not opinion, yeah.
No, it's not
Okay.
gonna change the outcome.
okay, well, I'll send you guys some blurbs and info to put on your personal emails and social media.
Until when does the survey,
Well, that's the other thing, Lauren just said, maybe we can extend it a little bit so we can get a higher number. So that's something we should talk about. It's currently till end of September. We could open it up another week, another 2 weeks,
I do at least
Yeah.
2 weeks.
more 2 weeks, additional 2 weeks.
I do it at least 2 weeks, yeah, so middle of
Mid-October.
October.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
It's been out for how long? When did it
It's
first?
been out for 3 weeks now.
And we got 100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we want to get at least 500.
Is there a full stop at some point down the road? In other words, we can't extend beyond X
well, you diminishing returns,
You
right?
just, yeah, I think it helps people really engage.
from 100 to what?
Oh, like, oh,
But in
we
other
don't
words,
care. There's no maximum.
no, a number, I'm just saying, is there a date at which it doesn't make sense to continue it?
I'll ask UNH if they think that, but they were the ones that said you should have some guidelines on when to finish, so when people actually see that, oh, there's a deadline, I should do this before the deadline.
Right?
Did they help you design the postcard, UNH?
A little, I think they helped us think about what it should look like, but. yeah.
My only comment was that the URL was in yellow. It was very hard to read on the postcard.
Yeah.
And the photo contest to me was what popped up.
Yeah, I
Not
thought
take the
that too.
survey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I was at a group of library trustees and It was 2 days after it had been received, I've received it, and not one of them knew that they had received it.
Okay.
So I think they saw the picture, saw a photo contest and then got pitched. And same thing, I have 3 kids that live here and none of them and their stuff, so.
Okay. That's
So-
good feedback.
So when
I
I
think
talked
that's
to her
a
about it,
concern.
I said, what did, I just kind of asked,
Yeah.
what did you think that postcard was about? And she said, well, I don't know, I saw something about a photo contest and about the organization.
Yeah.
She had no clue there was a survey.
Exactly.
And I really was shocked by that. Like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I
right,
agree.
well,
It wasn't very
It's out,
obvious, so maybe that's
so
part of
we'll
the issue.
use social media now. Yeah.
And it also brings up we've talked about this a little bit, but the whole like, should we create a Facebook page for the MERCAC? I mean, we do have the town website. I think we were hesitant in the past to create Facebook just because somebody's gonna have to deal, organize it and be the admin and stuff, but I do think that's a very effective way to get information out. And we could even like pay for advertising.
Does the town of Camden have a good following? Because that's also a hard thing, is like, you're gonna get the same 100 people that are at everything. Almost kind of, that's my,
I just think that there really isn't there's no presence really, in my understanding. I'm not on Facebook very much, but I've never seen anything about,
Yeah.
ever on it. So I just, or Instagram, I just think it's a very effective tool. So if we're struggling with our marketing and getting outreach to the people, it's just something to really consider.
However, how big is your following of the text message and what can you use that system
I
for?
was, I was going to offer that, because
Is that
I think-
appropriate?
I don't know exactly how many, I think it's completely appropriate. It's,
I didn't know if it was
Based
emergency
on
only
the-
or.
feedback I got from Maine Water after that water main break, it's pretty healthy.
Text message.
Yeah, text message sounds good.
The other thing we can do is on the landing page of the website, the first thing, we have a pop-up, have you taken our survey, and put a link there.
How about an article in the Camden Herald that we all get delivered to our?
I think they did one, but we'll do another one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, I was just wondering about the QR code. Do you feel the people that you talk to, like, what's people's level of comfort with a QR code
Very
versus
comfortable.
like very comfortable? Okay.
very comfortable.
No,
I don't know.
no.
I wouldn't, I think.
Because you had
People ignore
mentioned the URL being hard to read, but I think when I look at something like that, I see a QR code and it's like, oh, that's a link to go to, but maybe for other people, they'd be more.
But if you're on
focused
a
like-
computer, if
Exactly,
you're on a
Yeah.
computer, I gave it to my husband, I said, here's the QR code, because I can't read it.
yeah,
So, if you don't have a computer that can scan the QR code,
Exactly.
gotcha.
that.
Just
Just
curious.
comment.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, right.
If you have any other ideas for how to increase the take-up rate of the survey, just shoot them over to Bina and Julia.
Mhm.
All right, discussion on the NOAA event. Bina, you're leading this, or is it? Or is it?
Ray and I can do it together.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, those of you that were there. I thought it was, how did you all feel it went? Oh,
I thought it was very informative. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I watched it thoroughly.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome, eloquent.
How was the sound when you're listening to it, by watching it? Okay, fine. 'cause I-
Concert.
Questions?
the volume- Right, okay, 'cause I found the volume there, not good.
We're
So
not
do we
clear.
need to hand around the microphone to people who are asking?
so,
questions?
yeah, we had a microphone, it didn't work.
Yeah.
We had digging ditches for a microphone, apologies that it didn't work, but yes, I also watched the YouTube after and it seemed fine. And it seemed like we had 64 people that were very engaged, so, anyways, yeah.
I also thought it was nice to hear from Alice,
Yeah,
because I know she's done a lot with the river. I thought it was nice to have her doing the introduction.
yeah,
Great intro.
it was a helpful intro, I thought.
Yeah.
We
Big
would
takeaways? No, I'm curious, big takeaways on the meeting?
Read the
Fish
visibility
passage.
report.
Fish passage, fish passage.
Fish passage, maybe?
It makes me want to just be much more crude and less clinical about emphasizing fish passage and everything coming down from fish passage being achieved. I think we should take time to think really creatively ourselves as just people who work on our homes and in our businesses and in our lives about ways that we could help fish passage be kickstarted in 2024. If we can build a temporary ramp to get out and do landscaping on the island below Montgomery Dam, we can put a high-sided wooden slide down over every dam and let alewives up in May and June. And we can let the high water take the juveniles out with no change to any dams, and we can get fish passage in the river. And that can make us much more attractive for everything that we want to talk about in flood control and infrastructure and economy and everything. I just heard the key is the alewife, and everything that I've been living in the interim while not being at these meetings is that the good news around us with alewives is just so vast and so wonderful to observe. Whales in Penobscot Bay, porpoises in the harbor. Matt Bernier spoke eloquently about how this is happening and how this is the future. It's happening now. There are bluefish back in Rockport Harbor now. Those have not been here since I was a child. We took all the food out of the Gulf of Maine. The water column has been barren. So many efforts have been made. And of course, I'm over exaggerating on these terms, but alewives make a huge difference. Menhaden or pogies, whatever we want to call them being around, alewives. Eelgrass doing better, alewives. Striped bass being more prevalent, alewives. Humpback whales, alewives. Alewives. And that's just one keystone species. We could kickstart it with dip nets. We could do it with a bucket brigade. We can do it. And then we can talk about every dam and the elegant stone edifice that we want to do to fish passage, if that's the right thing down the road. And there's tons of money because we've got fish.
Yeah.
Can you just go across it a little bit more as far as what you envision as far as, okay, something that can be done and it'd be obviously a temporary fish passage, it wouldn't be the permanent one. But how would you do that at the harbor? What do you envision being done as a temporary fish passage there at the harbor?
I can answer that if you want.
Yeah.
I've always envisioned, I feel like from a temporary standpoint, I think you could do sandbags. I think you could actually have sandbag pools that start where the low point is in the existing dam. You could cascade and probably wind your way down.
Absolutely.
And is it ideal?
No.
But is it better than what's there? Can you take them away later? Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to.
Is that something a grant would cover?
That's a good point. That's what I was just trying to think about is like, could we work with the school to then get some preliminary funding from NOAA? But I also, this sort of leads into something else I was gonna talk about. So from the NOAA event, one big takeaway I heard was there's a lot of money on the table. And we are, they couldn't have emphasized more that Camden is prime for the, the funding and my.
Let's make it perfect
Right.
with fish. I mean, prime and attractive is great, but there's still a risk.
Totally,
If they're in there, they're in there.
right.
That cannot be better.
Yeah, and so I think that a good intermediary, I mean, it seems through this conversation, it would be a temporary something solution fund creative for Montgomery. And then in the meantime, let's look at Knox, Knowlton, Powdermill, and let's get funding, for removal of those dams or fish passage of those dams based on design options from FERC and go forward as it makes sense there.
I kind of agree. I'm on a faster timeline. The way that the challenges are mounting in the ocean, I just don't think we want to be too many years away from getting baby alewives out of that watershed and back into the drink. Their presence really changes things. The algae blooms didn't really happen this year, mostly due to all the freshwater runoff and the wind that blew it offshore. It's out in the Gulf of Maine, and that's all our stuff out there floating around. It's non-toxic, but it's something and it's different. I think conveyor belts before we get the money for the other dams over the other dams to have the fish is I don't want to preclude the immediate
Okay.
possibility.
I think Susan, hold on, Susan was,
Well, I was gonna say another talking about the money, one thing that I was thinking about, and I talked to Bina about it after the meeting, was with the 3 high hazard dams that we have, we know that they're staying, and we know that we need them because they are high hazard. We know we need to keep them. Can we use that money to fix those dams so that we can control the lake levels of Lake Megunticook? And with the design, either incorporate a fish ladder or have it as an option, but send those out. If the grants expire, some of them November 1st, can we send out for those 3 high hazard dams and say we want to fix them so that we don't have a 500-year flood if one of them goes? I mean, I don't know what they're going to say when they inspected them, what the options are, but we know that we need to control them better. We know the trash rack is not great. We know that it will, attribute to resiliency.
Yeah.
So why not apply for those 3 dams that we know need to be looked at, and with the idea of a design option for fish ladders to those, and then obviously work on the other ones as well.
So is that a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, everything's on the table, so I can go chat with Mike and we can figure out what makes most sense. I do think Mike Berg's takeaway from the event was more the other 3 was to get funding for Knox Milton, Powder Mill, and get fish moving.
But if one of those high hazard dams goes,
So,
I mean, we've lost Canyon.
Yeah.
And I mean, what is the plan if one of them goes? Is there a?
We have a whole,
Well, I couldn't find it, I looked, but I mean, is there a horn that goes off? Is there something that?
yeah, we have a whole.
There's a flushing sound.
Would you say?
they can't miss them.
Yeah. There's a flushing sound.
But those are pretty good takeaways, that's a really good question.
Wait, there
Yeah.
was one other one that struck me, maybe because that's where my focus was,
Yeah.
was that they, particularly Matt, mentioned the connection between dams and flood
Mhm.
over and over and over again. Leaving very little doubt that wherever there's a dam, there's backup and there's a problem. So it took the doubt or the question, a lot of my questions away, the importance of doing something about that.
Yeah, he also made the comment that you can start at any of the dams.
Yeah.
You can start at the upriver dams.
Right.
The other question was the main DOT culvert on Route 1. Throughout that, yeah.
Courtney, you want to say something?
Well, just the other takeaway I had was, that, there are so many options for Montgomery Dam and other dams for just fish passage, et cetera. And we can worry about aesthetics and historical preservation, we can do it all. And they really reiterated that. We can do that. We can make the waterfall look beautiful. We can, that no one's not just gonna come in and make all these changes without Freetown's say and influence. So I think that was really important to get out to the community, that yes, these changes are happening, but you're all concerned about the way it will look and, so those fears can be that I understand they're real fears, but I'm less
I
worried about
heard something
hearing from them.
slightly different, which was that the feds are not gonna tell the town what to do.
Right.
And that the
That's-
town
that's
can
what I'm
decide to do
saying. Yeah.
nothing, and I'm really here to say that we really cannot.
You're saying, yeah, I think that's.
I think fish passage has to be clear amongst us as a goal of the
Right.
committee's work.
I think I'm saying that they made it clear that we can have it all. We can have the fish.
I heard that.
And,
Save,
Yes, yeah.
save it. Yeah.
and make it look beautiful and care about the history.
But I think one thing that I took away from it, yes, I think they're very eager to have Camden, because if you think about it, most of the different fish ladders and fish passages around the state of Maine and everything are away from a very obvious point, where people will see it, visitors and everything too. We are in the locale where people are going to see this and, oh, what's this? Oh, it's a fish ladder. I mean, Damariscotta Mills is great, but it's in Damariscotta Mills. It's not in downtown Damariscotta. And, I think if we had something that was, I think, where I am, I want to preserve Montgomery Dam, but if you could incorporate a fish ladder with that, or a fish process in some way of getting up above there, You save the dam, you got the waterfall, and you have fish going up, and it's going to be an attraction. Because one thing we're always looking at, what are the attractions here? And I think,
One of the things that Matt said about that, though, just is like a light little detail, was that we do need to worry about how much we lower the dam. So there will be, I don't think we can preserve the entire dam, but we can modify it so it's in some ways still, some of it remains, but we need to lower it enough so that the fish can get out.
Mhm.
So that was just one little piece that I remember, but
Okay,
there's wiggle room.
cool. So lots of key takeaways,
So were there
Excellent. So-
any additional
Yep.
questions people had?
from Matt.
Because I know you guys all sent in a lot of questions. For the most part, I think he answered, I kind of went through them again and again. What I gained was from either the Q and A or from just our presentation, it seemed like they were mostly answered. If you have additional questions, send them to me and they will follow up. We also received a letter that I sent out to all of you post event, and I haven't responded to that letter yet because it's not me to respond, it's on us, you. And if that's something we want to respond to, is it, how do you want to go about that? How do we want to do follow-up from, I mean, that kind of goes into our public comment Q and A.
Didn't we have a conversation about that early on?
Yeah, this one was just a
Any
little
other
different.
questions?
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, I thought that answer made sense. Since we only got one question, one letter this time, maybe not. But that we don't try to answer them individually. But to provide answers to the questions that are raised on our Q&A.
okay,
Now, I don't know, I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but I think if we develop a practice of answering every letter individually, and that particular letter seemed to have a lot of charges, accusations rather than questions.
yeah, and some misinformation that it's always tricky to know how to, like, what's our role in that response, you know, do you clarify things? Or do you direct them to the same information, you know, on the website? Yeah. Just curious how you guys think we should go about that.
Yeah, well, it was a decision early on not to answer individually. I remember the discussion we had 10 months ago or so about that. The other thing, just a point of order, just that, you know, that was addressed to the select board,
Yeah, to Tom.
Right.
to Tom, so it's not really on the
Okay.
committee to respond
I
necessarily.
thought they wanted us, okay, gotcha.
Well, they said share it, but
Yeah, and I think it would be valuable, you know, I mean, the committee and the select board have to be on the same page. That would be very useful. So maybe we can work, you know, together to provide Tom a few answers. I don't know. We will talk to him when he's back. To be continued.
How are we responding in general? Is there a
People,
format that we're
yeah, so
using
people
for
send
answering?
questions via email and then we say, thank you for your question. And then we either incorporate it onto the Q and A as neat, or most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, I'll say, please see section blank in the Q and A because it's already been answered.
And then if it's something that needs
If it's,
research, you just say that, and you give a time frame. I know we've talked about this in just wondering how.
we try and answer it within 2 weeks has been just done.
Yes.
But yeah, they've been pretty straightforward, mostly just questions that the feasibility study can answer or, I would say that's been the primary answering tool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, right?
one quick thing, would it be worthwhile to send to this committee the responses that are sent out to the?
Yeah, and I have a shared document that I don't think I can.
I don't.
Yeah. I know, I was gonna talk about like, if you guys want to receive information, but, yeah, if I ever get a controversial question like this one, like I didn't really, like,
Okay.
Well, I think
you'll know, but some of them were like, when's the next meeting? I figure you don't want to know, that's all that's that.
well, either the answer is already on the Q and A, or if it's a new question, we add it to the Q and A. So the Q and A is up to date to the questions that have been asked to the community.
Right, okay, good.
And there's a document in the share drive that anybody in the committee can consult.
And if you ever want to go take a cruise through the Q and A and update anything, please do and report.
It's really good.
All right, moving on.
We're gonna move Susan up.
Yeah. Susan, Field site visit.
did you get my pictures? Are you
Yes.
able to share any of those?
Oh, I didn't.
Because it's, in many ways, it's just as easy to annotate the pictures if you can share them, but maybe not. So we were sailing and we went up to Somersville, and Somersville has a series of fish ladders. But one of them at the mouth of their river goes right into the head of Somersville Harbor. So their site is very similar to what we have. They had grist mills, sawmills, wool mills there, and
Just do this, sorry.
okay, that's fine. So that's a picture of their dam. And off in the distance is their fish ladder, which is a Danelle, is that how you say it?
Oh,
Fish ladder,
the
Danelle,
Neil,
fish ladder. And I talked to Billy Helprin, who is the director of the Maynell-Soamesville Wildlife Sanctuary, and he did a lot with the fish ladders. And helped to build them. They were built, I believe, in 2005, some of the new ones. But the whole area looks very similar to Camden. I mean, the watershed is similar. They have two big ponds. Has anyone ever seen them?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have two large ponds. They have 3 different types of fish ladders. They have people that count the fish. They have people that catalog all the animals and the wildlife and the vegetation that's along the river. They involve the schools. And Billy, I think, would be willing either to do a Zoom meeting with us, or a couple of us could go up and do a site visit with him. I'm sure he'd be happy to do it. He worked with Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and I mean, he was wonderful. We were on the boat sailing, and it's hard to hear what he was saying when I was talking to him on the phone. So I told him I would call him back after this meeting today, if people are interested.
I'll go with you again.
What is the elevation of that?
I'm not sure.
It doesn't look very big, it doesn't look very high.
I would guess that it's about 8 to 10 feet. Yeah, but the fish ladder itself is solid on one wall, and it looks like, it's something that might be able to go against the seawall or against Harbor Park and perhaps put it up through there. I mean, I don't know, but he's very knowledgeable.
That's awesome.
And he's willing to talk about the different fish ladders and how they put them in, who they worked with, the grant processes they went through, the steps that they had to go through, how they got their volunteers. So I mean, it's, yeah.
Let's have him speak.
Susan, again, who is this and what is
So
this
his name
position?
is Billy Helprin.
Yeah.
And he's with the Maynell-Soamesville Wildlife Sanctuary.
So who's doing these, cataloging or studying of the
So
wildlife?
He has a group that comes in, he has a coastal action group that comes in, and they count the alewives and the fish that come up. They also catalog the different vegetations that are there. They bring school groups in, everything from first grade through high school. Yeah, I mean, it's, and if you go to their website, the Maynell-Soamesville website, I can send that to you. Their newsletters are interesting to read, just the last 10 years. And they have pictures of the different dams and the different, people working in the dams. And one thing they found is they put a fish ladder in the middle of one of the dams, and they found that the fish went to the sides. And so they need to have people stand in the river with a net to get the fish to go up in the middle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because fish go, as you probably know, to where the water is
Yeah.
most active.
So did everybody watch what Susan sent?
Yeah.
Well, just the
If
first
not,
minute.
Yeah.
particularly for Steph.
Yeah, just the first
To
minute.
show the fish.
Yeah.
Really cool. It's really
The video showed some of the best pictures of elvers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah.
great.
Well, and yeah.
Yeah.
And along those lines of dams that are, so I think I sent you all sort of the dam tour thing, so it's hard to get us to go drive 2 hours away, right? So there's also the Farmington Dam that Mike Burke has been working on a little bit, and the Atlantic Salmon Federation people had asked if we wanted to come up. They really are excited about the Camden project, and so they want any sort of, come look at this dam that we did. And so I'll send you this link too, because they did a pretty cool time lapse of this is their dam, and then they remove it and they do I mean, I feel like kids would love it because it's just all the construction vehicles come in and take down the dams and then it shows the restoration that then comes in after and sort of goes through their success story of what it took to get there. And they're having an event, I sent out the info, I don't remember it right now, but in a few weeks.
29th.
Yeah, that everyone's welcome to go to. They would also love if we ever wanted to do a private tour of it, you know, see how their project's going, but again, it's in Farmington, Maine, so I don't know. The best way to organize all of us to get up there, your sort of responses on dam where we're all over the place. You guys were
So what kind of
50-50.
fish ladder did they install?
They removed the dam.
They're, okay,
So full river restoration. This is what it looks like at the end.
And this is the Sandy?
So.
The river.
Is it Sandy River?
I don't remember, I don't know what.
The one, the big.
Littleton Mills.
It's near there. Okay.
Yeah, probably. Should know. Littleton Mills.
Okay.
So I guess back to the real, I was gonna introduction idea of pilot projects. So just to. How do we want to, what do we want to do, if anything, and how do we want to decide it? Really, yeah.
So I think there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Number one, in the discussion we had about those, so there's grants available in November. So we have to submit each grant. Apparently, we have to make sure, the issue is that, is it one grant per dam that we want to do, or can we bundle the dam? So that's kind of determine how many dams we're going to include in that grant, because it's very time consuming.
And would we do the high hazard dams, or would we do
Or the three,
the not some powder mill?
not.
So I think that those are questions we need, and so I can ask Matt Bernier some questions and ask Mike Burke some questions about which makes sense to do. But you know, the select board to receive any money needs to agree on it, right? And so they probably would look to this committee to say, should we take this money and what does that look like? So I can answer some questions and figure out what
Can
dams.
you
make.
describe what the pilot project would be?
Well, that's what I'm saying is, you know, I think Mike Burke at one point thought Powder Mills would be a great pilot project. It's already sort of dam ruins, remove those, figure out what fish passage would look like, make it work, get the funding and have that be like the pilot project. Or would the Knox Mill Dam be the first project on the river, or would Knowlton, or should we do?
But pilot project meaning doing it.
Yes.
Removing
I know, I feel like
Yes.
pilot's not the right
Yeah,
word, demonstration project, so like the first dam project on the river.
And there's separate grant money for a pilot project?
So they were just saying, you don't have to say you're gonna remove Montgomery Dam, you don't have to do anything to Montgomery Dam, you can still do anything to, because it seems like we all still need to make some decisions around Montgomery, so let's not get stuck on Montgomery and not do anything else. Let's think
But
about
the
the
town
rest of the
doesn't have
river.
to vote on a pilot.
The
project.
town doesn't have to vote on any of this,
Well,
technically.
Montgomery, it does,
Montgomery
because
did.
it's-
Yes.
any town.
Montgomery's
yeah.
the only one.
Well, just
That's-
right,
yeah.
because it's already been decided
Decided
at
by
the
the
town
select
level.
board.
Right.
Okay, but I'm
federal,
just saying,
no.
federally, there's no
Oh, federally,
mandate that like
Right.
anyone has to vote. I was gonna say, Matt Bernier was also, one thing he said is that this town has done more outreach and education than he's seen any other towns do, so we should all be very proud of them. Yeah,
So, dumb question
No.
probably, but, Powder Mill Dam? Why would we need fish passage there if we're actually gonna remove all the?
well, that's the, I guess,
debris?
we would just remove it, and that is fish
And that
passage,
would
so
be-
river restoration project.
Right.
So it's either, you know, dam removal, river restoration, fish ladder, I think, just making sure that.
I think the hard thing with the Powder Mill Dam is I view it as a fairly low hanging fruit, just because there's not a lot going on. It's also not very visible.
Yeah.
And it did sound like there, you know, I think there was still some legal stuff as far as the ownership of either the adjacent land or there was some, I thought the owner wasn't as interested in that.
There's the one guy on the other side of the river, I don't think he has.
Yeah.
he
Ownership
lived
of
near
the
that,
structure itself.
But I don't think there's
I
a
don't think it's
legal.
just for a big hurdle, right?
Okay,
I'm looking at.
But, well, Rodney Lynch.
Yeah, and I've talked to him.
yeah,
quite a
I'm not
bit.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it seems like a pretty low hanging fruit, but it's just
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It's not a great demonstration thing to show people what the
Right.
river's gonna look like, because most people don't even know there's a dam there right
So
now.
it's like one that
It's
is-
really obvious.
Well, Knox Mill would be Knox Mill is a relatively low hanging fruit and is much more visible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, two questions. First, is there fish passage there now? At the,
No,
does anybody
Powder
know?
mill, at the powder
At a
mill.
powder
in
mill?
the feasibility study,
There's
they
no-
recommended that we need to remove what's there so the fish, because there's.
Okay, so there, and
I think it's hard because I think fish passage is not a black and white thing either.
Right.
So is there fish passage there? Yeah. Is it as good as it could be? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes
Right.
down to.
with powder mill, I assume there is not an awful lot of sediment back there. There's sediment behind it. The other two is going to eat up a lot of money getting rid of that. And it's gonna be a lot of time. Powder mill is a low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It's easy that way. But who's gonna notice it?
Yeah.
Well, if
That's,
there's more money now, are we better off going with something that's more expensive and more involved? And go after the money for that, which takes me back to east-west, which is a high hazard. Boy, we better have it so it's really going to stay in great shape. Trash rack's good, we can regulate the lake height
Oh.
better. And, you know, people are on the lake and you design it with the option of perhaps building it in at the time or later, a fish ladder. I don't know.
Or can we get another diadromous fish into the watershed through sandbags,
Yeah.
braille nets, buckets,
Yeah.
wooden ramps, conveyor belts, and then have a fish like the alewife be the pilot project. Elvers are passing all of these dams right now, just like in Selmsville.
Right.
So there is fish passage. There's important fish passage. Some people make lots and lots of money off Elvers down in the harbor. That's real fish passage. It's not enough. We need the alewife.
I think what we
So-
need to do, I think what we need to do is talk to Matt and Matt and Mike and better understand kind of the framework of those the grants is. And maybe come back to the issue is that's November, so November is tomorrow. So we don't have a lot of time to make it, to come back to the committee, so maybe that probably will have to go through email. To engage all of you.
We're not
into-
doing a September speaker series, so that could be, we'll just send a lot of emails in lieu of a speaker.
I'm sorry, November is a deadline, but for the grant application?
Is it just a pre-application, do we know? Or is it a
Yeah,
full
what is it?
application?
I'll look again.
Well, so
but
we'll-
it was full.
Let's get as much information as possible to
Yeah.
the,
I
I think
just
the-
wanted to, before we went down any working hard path, making sure that the committee wanted us to work hard.
it's the opportunity to show people what it would look like to do a dam removal, fish ladder passage in our river.
Can I add one
Yes,
thing into
of
all
course.
of this? I understand Susan's point, absolutely, and I think that we're gonna, we've got some work to do with like the climate and, structural side of it. The Knoxville and Knowlton Street dams and the feasibility study are already at 50% design, and they only need to be brought to,
To completion, basically.
so they're kind of in a good.
That fruit is hanging in the water right now.
Right, right.
So did I hear right that, maybe not, a few minutes ago, somebody said the town had already decided about those lesser dams, and so a town vote wasn't needed.
Those are privately owned, so,
Right.
yeah, no, there's no town vote.
That sounds
It's just
good.
the owners of the dam.
But I think it's my understanding and it's good because we have individuals from different parties that definitely conflict on some dams and the intent of. I think it'd be interesting to look at those, like if there's not anything controversial about an approach to the Powder Mill Dam. We don't need to make it a controversial topic and fill out paperwork and move forward. And I don't know, Ray, from your group, if they're mostly focused on Montgomery and.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
And I don't know if there's anyone, have we heard any opposition at all from the public at all about restoring the Powder Mill Dam section?
Just the one.
Just
I don't think most people know.
Yeah, don't know.
Not the,
It's adjacent, okay, thank you.
And we would work with him and.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of
He's
the
engaged
process
in the
with all
process,
these,
so
yeah.
So I think we have a little bit more consensus, so there's still more questions to be answered.
Perfect.
thank you, Audra, for those precision, because it really helps the decision, but I think this committee will have to make a recommendation to the select board based on what Bina and Forrest will share back with us on the process, the date, the scope.
Yeah, we might end up having to devote a lot of the October meeting to this issue.
Yeah.
So maybe plan ahead.
Okay.
Plan ahead and we need input for sure.
All right,
Deb, this meeting's for you, just kidding. No, Deb and others have asked that we sort of refocus, come back to the gap analysis.
Mhm.
What have we learned? What do we still want to learn? Let's focus on, who should we hear from in October, November, December specifically? Or what do we want to focus on? What readings should we do? What homework should we do? So I thought we could either, Deb already scared me because she doesn't want to have stickies or markers, so I threw away my whole idea for the rest of the meeting.
It's on the wall.
I could just leave.
You wanted to go over that.
I know, but they can all do it. You can just.
I'm just teasing. I didn't have stickies for today, but I was thinking of breaking up into 3 groups and, your subcommittees or
let's have
just,
one conversation at a time, because it's really hard on Zoom. Go ahead.
no, you're good. To go and pick 2, so maybe these 3 people can have items 1 and 2. What have we accomplished anything? Or we can sit in a round table right now and just go through, climate resilience plan or climate action plan. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet, but it's not on the work act to do, but how can we accomplish learning more about a climate action plan for Camden? Do we work with the climate change committee? Should we have a meeting with the conservation commission? How does that work? What do you guys want to learn from them? How would that information inform any of your decision making moving forward? So I think if you got in small groups, it would be helpful to hear what have we learned and what do you guys want to learn and how are we going to accomplish that?
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I think it would be so helpful if we could prioritize. So
Absolutely.
once we figure out, the gaps that we still have, we don't have tons of time left. Like, we need a recommendation by next August or something. Like, I just feel like it would be helpful. We all could, as a group, decide.
Yeah.
What order do we want to go in and what's the most important versus.
So that's what I
what
was
we don't.
looking at when I was looking through all these gaps, there's still a lot. And there's a lot that we'll never know all this, right, in the next month or 7. So what are the priorities? What does matter to this group and how do we get there?
So I wonder if it's chicken or egg, kind of.
Yeah.
Do we start with priorities? Do we, we could waste our time on saying, if we're talking in depth about something, it's a low priority.
Yeah.
So how do we get that?
So would you be comfortable just prioritizing the title topic? Title?
I think you're thinking more of these bullets, right? Yeah, I agree.
Because there's some bullets that are really important
But I guess we
within
did
every
have
single one.
instead of having to do everything, do some of these have more bullets than others?
Why doesn't everyone quietly read through these giant bullets and circle some priorities you have and we'll see if we have any alignment?
Okay, so pick 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Pick 1, 2, and 3. So does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
So on each page,
I
there's
think-
all these bullets,
Yeah,
unless someone has a pivot off that.
I have a pivot and I just don't want to derail,
No,
but
you're
I just want fish passage you can't even know. And I just think, I think all of the spokes, it's just fish passage in the spokes. Then
Yeah.
fish passage in the spoke and fish passage in the spoke. And so urgently in November, we have an opportunity to maybe consider fish passage right away. So can that prioritize this? We have something coming up right away. We need the people in Camden to know that fish passage is happening.
So
And
I'm gonna stop.
please,
I love your passion about fish. I love your passion about fish passage.
Ooh, that's
So it's hard to. La prochaine fois, je vais le faire en français, tu vas voir, c'est encore plus facile. Anyway, I think we all heard your passion about prioritizing fish passage, and I think it's noted, and we're gonna address this. But we're talking, and you're talking about an action plan to make it happen quickly. But what we're looking at right now is still the gap analysis and what we still need to learn and which are the priorities that each member of the committee wants to set. 3 priorities among the bullet points, and fish passage is in
I
a
just don't. know what
category
we
of
need-
its own.
I don't know what more we need to learn.
Okay. That's,
So, yeah, I have a hard time putting bullets
that's fine.
in order.
About anything or about fish management?
Okay,
Anything.
let's take 5 minutes. Is it 5 minutes enough for you guys to go through all the bullets?
10 minutes?
10
Picking
minutes?
out about 3 in each section.
Yeah.
No, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
The whole.
Of the whole pack.
Oh, the whole package.
Yeah, it's
Not-
making it- making it-
Oh,
Because we didn't make it in groups, so.
okay.
making it really hard for people.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, and 3 in the whole packet.
1, 2, and 3 in the whole packet.
Does everyone understand that?
It's not 1, 2, 3 per page. It's 1,
Okay.
2, 3 out of all of your bullets.
Where is this?
Across the categories,
Yeah.
top 3, what they,
Yeah.
what
I
they,
think you need to back.
but what if 3 of them are basically the same thing? Is
Oh,
that
up here.
1 or 3?
I brought my, it's the wrong packet.
Yeah, this would be your package.
I like this.
And these are the things that we think we need to know about, or that we do
Well, a
know.
lot of these things I think were originally identified as gaps that we had, and
So
we've
we-
tried to bring in speakers and we've tried to address some of these gaps. So some of these we feel have been addressed. And then I think the question is, what outstanding items are the highest
Could we
priority?
go around and talk about, or just mention the
We're
ones
gonna
that
just-
we've done?
Yeah.
That we do know about, because that's, I mean, it's a really important
But
first
I
step.
think
The first step is to figure out what have we learned.
Yeah.
No, but-
To check them off.
So
But I think some's
what's-
at your
what's on-
discretion.
But what's on that list has already, nothing we've already looked at is on the list, right?
Yeah.
The
No.
speaker series, the topics that were addressed in
It's the same
speaker set
list.
are not on the list.
Oh, I haven't removed anything.
You have
same
not
list.
removed anything.
Yeah, because I wanna know.
Yeah, sure, right?
Thing. What's the whole point of this?
Yeah.
We had another side conversation over here that I think is important. And that is, some of these bullets can be merged together.
Totally.
And so it's really hard to do 1, 2, 3 when there's like 3, they're really, really important, but I would put them all together and then I'd have a 2 in a different category.
Okay,
you
so
know?
So
all
we
the
can just look at the
flooding.
headings.
Flooding is one.
We can, so, okay, yeah, no, but I think,
You guys
hold
see
on,
my
hold
own
on.
page? Hold on.
Let's retweak this process. Let's take number 1. We're gonna do blitzkrieg. So number 1. That's German. I'm multilingual. Get on board. All right, number 1, flood and community resilience. So everybody reads that page and everybody picks 1.
One that we want to learn about?
Yes.
One that you think is a high priority and you want to learn more
And then we'll
about
go around,
through,
and then we'll prioritize
through-
on this one.
through this committee.
And if it's not on this page, we can.
Tyler's question.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take one.
You ready?
Okay,
Okay, the first thing, climate resiliency plan or climate action plan. Good, to me, that is,
No, that's it. We don't need to know why,
okay,
because
Fine.
we're never gonna
that's
get
fine,
to
that's
8.
fine.
okay,
Tyler,
I'm looking forward to the flooding report.
perfect,
Vulnerability studies.
perfect.
Uh,
Pick your favorite.
I'll put me with Ray. I'm
Okay,
interested in that.
Okay.
So I'd say the vulnerability studies, the flood projection models.
no,
will
1,
hopefully go into that.
vulnerability studies of
Okay.
stormwater and sewer system.
I'm gonna argue with you,
Okay,
because I picked flood projection models, but I don't know, we can talk about that without defining a flood.
exactly. Okay, so those 2 together,
okay,
just because it's you there.
Susan,
I agree with Deb, the flood protection models and define what a flood is, a flood event.
perfect.
Okay.
Septic system analysis.
Love that.
I'm with Susan and Deb.
Okay,
Can I change my vote?
Yeah.
I want to be with Seth. That was the other one I was interested in. I think I'm more interested in that.
okay.
What do you say?
Septic system.
Septic system.
Septic. Septic.
Oh, what did I say?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm with Susan and Deb, so.
Flood
that's-
protection models. and-
Right, okay.
Okay.
Very helpful. Thank you. Number
We had
2.
3.
what did you vote?
Number now we're.
I don't know.
No.
Chris voted.
Chris voted.
No.
Oh,
No, they can't vote.
Okay.
All right, community history and aesthetics.
I guess so.
We've learned some of this, so what else, what's left to learn about?
Well, we start, okay, fine. The last one, the impact of invasive species on aesthetics, and aesthetics, I'm taking to be the whole thing.
Okay,
I'm good in this category.
perfect. Rick,
Oh, yeah, the only one that I hadn't even thought of on this list before would be the invasive species one, so I'll go with that.
I'm really unclear on what that is.
That's why.
The impact is it's ugly.
Does that mean if we take the dams down?
No.
No, it's just.
No. No.
Do we need to know more about it?
All right, then I'll say that one because I don't understand.
Get rid of that Japanese knockout in my,
Oh, my kids eat so much of that.
good.
Japanese knot is
I
good.
need an
The roots,
explanation
the
of
roots.
existing designs and drawings. Of what?
Yeah, I don't understand.
That's
that.
exactly what my question is.
The dams,
I would assume of the dams.
the dams and the.
Of all the dams.
Strawberry.
Can we have one conversation at a time?
Sorry.
Sorry. So a complete existing design and drawings of the dam and the different
That means
options.
historical drawings and current drawings and.
I guess that's a good point. Is this
Yeah.
one about aesthetic or is it about history?
Yeah.
That is confusing. I'll see that
Oh.
now. So we could make, because obviously we all want to know what would the drawings look like if we made changes, right? I think that's probably a number one priority for a lot of people.
That would be my vote if now I understand.
All right, let's have it be that. If it's
So we have
compilation
So
of,
it's aesthetic, not.
yeah, potential,
history.
potential dam alteration
Right.
drawings.
Yes.
River alteration.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's
River-
future,
River alteration,
future
sorry, that's what I
focus.
said.
Yeah,
It's future drawings.
Yes, we'll do.
Drawings
future
are
drawings.
future.
Susan,
I'm existing drawings and drawings and designs.
I also have none on this one.
okay.
I also have none on this one.
all right. Infrastructure management.
Oh, yeah, that's just.
It's built out now.
Well, that analysis is, you look at current zoning and population growth rates and where development would occur within a town.
If. The dams are removed, or if, like what.
Right.
It's not really necessarily related.
It's not
to-
necessarily related to the
The
dams.
dam
This is more, this is a watershed
Watershed.
wide. These are all watershed and river issues. So what would the impact be to future development in Camden to the water body, and where would that development likely occur based on what's buildable, what's not buildable?
I guess, I'm not sure why is that helpful?
So build out analyses are done as part of watershed plans because you're looking at future threats.
So you can bring in like sea level rise or flooding, or understand like where should build out occur for a community, and how should zoning ordinances impact that?
Because more impervious surfaces have a negative impact on a water body. Once you get over about 10% in a watershed, water quality declines. So it's more of a water quality issue unless you have, lots of stormwater treatments.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Okay, yeah, it's something more big picture rather than just focusing on.
But it's not just public infrastructure,
It's
and
bigger.
private as well, because that's also.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
And do we have a study, Audrey, do you know? About.
Build out.
Do we have any idea? Yeah. No.
I mean, I could go for every one on
Go
this
for it.
list, but
Yeah.
I would say, since I've raised it before, investigate the legal issues of river management, but I assume that includes everything of taking over dams, responsibilities, et cetera. So, yeah.
Mine's the same.
Okay.
I'm curious, I guess, about cost analysis of fish ladder maintenance.
Right.
I guess I'd say vulnerability studies. Which is the same as flooding chapter.
Yeah.
Vulnerability zones. Oh, a question of private property risk assessment. What's the same? Yeah, I think so.
Say that, what did you say? Same as legal issues, isn't it?
I can't
Legal
hear
issues
what
of
you
river
said.
management, I mean,
So
there's a
then-
whole
so-
issue, if you change the size and route of the river, you're gonna impact property owners.
Yeah.
Is that on here somewhere?
I would say it's kind of embedded in some of those private property
Right.
risk
I
assessment.
would, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's why it was brought up initially.
So I would say the legal issues.
Field data analysis.
Private property risk assessment.
Public access and use.
It is just personal. I will go for the feasibility study for the Riverwalk extension.
Identification of private sections of the river.
Riverwalk extension.
On television.
Which one did you say?
The last one.
Private sections.
Probably just like that.
Yeah, I think I'd say that one too. Is that,
Can I ask why? Like, what? Like, I'm just curious. I know we're not supposed to okay, we want diversity. I just want to know like what you want to know about that.
yeah, exactly, yeah. I'd like to have more detailed conversation about everything. I think this is hard to do this.
Totally. But then we get to know where we need to focus our discussion. We can't just.
But if we don't have clarity on each thing, it's hard to, that was what I was stuck on. It's like I could say what I think, but I don't. Maybe I'm too detailed for it. Yeah.
Where are we?
That.
Yeah, there's one I want to link. The last two is the feasibility study of the Riverwalk. It's going to involve private sections.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Let's combine those.
And I agree with Deb.
I'm good on this.
I'm with Susan and Deb. All right.
And I combined 5 and 7 for you.
Oh, okay.
So they choose only one between 5 and 7,
I mean,
or 1
You
in
know
5 and 1 in 7?
we can keep them separate.
Let's do 1 in 5 and then 1 in 7, okay?
Okay, for me, it'd be the establishment of River Festival.
You're missing pages for it.
Make sure the Democratic.
I agree. Same.
Festival?
What did you
Yeah.
say?
Festival.
River Festival.
I don't believe so. Something related to the schools, so either the middle point or the bottom one.
Which I think are connected.
I
Let's
agree.
connect
They should
it.
be
All
safe.
right, connect them.
Yeah.
Stuff for dinner last week. Okay, I have to go in. Like the river fest.
I think we have to vote for both items, so yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on a side road again. I would like us to define inclusive community outreach. But I'm in the school issue as well.
Mhm.
I would combine 3 and 5.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
River Festival.
3 and 5.
We need Ellen to break the tie.
You got the educators versus the party people.
I know.
School focused River Fest.
Yes.
Okay, number 7?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. This is one I've been hitting on all the time. Number 2 bullet there, what the community wants to know.
Oh,
Same.
yeah, fine.
You said that, Rick,
They all kind of seem the same to me, so yeah, I'll go with.
what the community wants to know.
I think the community thinks it knows more than it actually knows, so I'll skip past that first one.
Yeah, same, or what the community wants to know.
Inventory,
Of which there are 2.
Oh, what the community wants to
that
know.
wants to know.
I'm all good.
Marginally easier than the
Wants to know.
Wants to know, because this one is really.
This is super helpful. I know it feels goofy, but this is really helpful for us
Yeah,
to figure out
yeah.
how to move forward in the
Right.
next few years.
All right,
Okay.
habitat
And
connectivity.
one number 6, right?
Yeah,
That's, we're
Okay.
doing number 6.
Last one, right?
That's
Nothing here, but I would go on that 4th one, in-depth study of legacy contaminants. Gotta know what we're digging up.
I'm gonna do the same.
So can I ask, Seth, which one of these bullet points is the one that you're gonna choose?
Number 1.
Study
Which one?
impact.
Study of impact on Muscat Bay?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Yeah, good.
My turn. No, it's good.
No, it's me, I'm, of course, taking your time again.
How could you?
I don't know how you
I'm just
do
doing
this
it.
sometimes.
I just messed up.
I have to think about each one for like 10 minutes. Okay.
It's college course once again.
last one's easy.
Can you guys come back to me and
Yeah,
then you
okay.
can, I can't.
Let me ask you, oh, it's just maybe. Nita, do you know how much the legacy contaminants are being measured now or will be as part of the grant?
Already have that.
They have been, right? So we have that information. And is it in depth?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So if that's the case.
So you can change your mind, you too.
Well, never mind, yeah.
I want surveys of all of these things. I don't know. So what would it tell us if we did a survey of the fish and macroinvertebrates and aquatic plants? We did it before picture.
Yeah, what would help our decision making? That's what I can.
Right.
That's a good way to think.
I think that would tell us sort of what the health of the river is right now.
Well, give us a neat baseline.
Yeah, basically.
That was, I'm gonna pick up this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do legacy contaminants.
So we
we
already
established-
have
we
that.
that.
Yeah.
We established.
We already have that study,
Right.
so.
Entire thing, isn't it?
Is it all for up, all the way
Recognize
up and
that,
down the
yeah.
river? Including the
Yes,
land,
yes,
all the land?
Yeah, I've answered this question so many times,
Right.
yes,
Okay, fine. So we're not gonna get any surprises when things are dug up.
no.
Okay, okay, fine.
So you guys want to change your mind again?
I've got nothing here then.
Perfect.
So Susan, what did you say?
Then I'd like to do the fish, aquatic plants ones.
I would go with the same one then. I would move mine up to the Seth's category.
Seth's category was study of,
I'm off Scott Bay.
Yeah,
Okay, but anyway, okay, no, but the fish.
The fish, number 1, okay. Tyler, you want to move?
Nope.
No. So Courtney, did you?
All right, good.
Well, we have.
I didn't say.
We have
that.
LP. All right.
So I'm gonna do the first one, but I just want to say that I feel like I'm having a hard time choosing just because I actually think hands down, we know that I think we know that environmentally it's the thing. Yeah, I feel like we know it's gonna be a really good thing to take down dams environmentally. The problem is that the community, that's where the rub is, where the community needs. So I like the idea of that first one being a baseline that we can compare later. That's really important, actually. Be really great to have that.
So,
Courtney still
yeah,
has.
Courtney.
So, yeah, I agree. I think we don't need any more information to make recommendations, but I do think baseline data would be super helpful. And then just in general, river health is the key baseline, you know, so it's not just the fish and the potted plants, but, you know, the water quality, things like that. So I'm gonna be more broad, but
No, that's
maybe the first and the last one, but
So then in looking at these 7 big groups, like looking back at just a pretty big graphic. Over the next October, November, December, which big ones do you think we should focus on? Is it community input? Is it education? Is it infrastructure? You know, which buckets do you think we should focus on?
Flooding, especially because Lee is arriving.
Lee is coming.
Lee is coming, and then Margot.
Get filmed your cameras.
Yeah.
Should we hear from everyone? I heard 3 or 4 voices for flooding. I don't know if we heard from Ray or Tyler.
No, I have no problem with flooding, as far as, finding out more about it, what the vulnerabilities are, where the vulnerabilities are for the town, okay? Yeah,
So we will promise to have you a report on flooding by the next meeting.
Dana, to be
Yes,
included in this, would be what I asked Mike about when he was here for that second conversation.
Yeah.
And that is not so much historical data.
Right.
But trying to do projected scenarios. Because we need to know more about the amount of rain over what period of time.
yep,
Against our system.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yeah, it could be done. So can we try to get it done?
absolutely.
For the nerds in the group, NOAA, on their website, they have projection tools that they're a bit hard to use because they designed it for the public, but I guess NOAA, it's been a long time since they were the public. They're a bit esoteric, but they're worthwhile looking at how they think about calculating climate change, sea level rise, surge, and things like that. So there are, maybe we should have a review of that. They're fun.
Yeah, well, I know Mike also said somewhere that this is science or this art is emerging.
Yeah.
right.
And there wasn't anything really definite or clear yet, but it's emerging. So there must be something out there.
Oh, there's tons of information when it comes to flooding and storm surge and sea level rise, and there's a lot of data, and I think our issues, because we help a lot of community analyze this for all sorts of projects. Well, we do a lot of vulnerability analyses, and it's understanding how to use the tools and which tools make the most sense for your town.
Well,
And
can
so-
you use Legos to do a 3-dimensional one?
I saw the Lego thing at the library, so sorry. Yeah.
All right, can I just, actually, I have a question for Audra, but when she, okay. We're talking about flooding is a key thing that we all want to know more about. What is the status with the Megunticook Lake Association? Because they're supposed to give back a report or whatever, aren't they, about flood management with Lake Megunticook?
No, what they're
No?
doing is they're getting together, they're reaching out to stakeholders to give us recommendations on updating the lake dam management policy.
Lake Dam, okay, fine, all right, but is there any kind of a deadline for that?
No.
No, okay, all right.
So I was gonna say also that in the feasibility report, if I think I'm remembering correctly, they have several pages of what certain areas are gonna look like under certain flooding
Conditions.
conditions.
And so in the report, we had a really boring report prepared and we're gonna make it more fun. And that we wanna show the scenarios and what those look like, sort of in a story map file. And so we're getting those images from, interview folks so that we can really show
Okay,
that. Because I do think those are, that tells the story instead of saying it in narrative, it's gonna see.
Does that include the culverts or the other,
Pinch points?
But
So
so it's just
the downs.
the dams?
Yeah, it's,
we'll see what we can provide in October and then how we want to expand on that and like, who do we need to, you know, outside groups can interview, do more studies on flooding and what does that look like? What data do we need to bring in? It kind of can spur into a really big project. So I think what we'll provide is more baseline. This is what it is.
I know all of you have followed the last select board meeting. And flooding and understanding flooding and wastewater management issue are very interlinked. So it is also a topic that the select board is going to be taking up this year. Because we really need to understand better the issues around flooding, around INI, as it's called, and the relationship between our waste management system, flooding, big rain events, all those things. So it's really a topic that we're going to be covering from different angles. So I'll keep you posted on what we're going to do with the select board, but it is something that's really, really critical to manage.
Is the select board gonna have studies done? And could those be shared with us?
Well, anything that.
Is that the flood event, Simon?
Anything the select board does is public, so I cannot answer the question of whether we have more studies. Because we haven't thought about how we're gonna structure, how we're gonna.
Yeah, and
But
actually it was a request more than an open question. If they do have studies, can you
Of
be the
course,
liaison and get them to
of
us?
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, I'd love to watch them on.
I know, I see you every other week there.
So flooding seemed to be a resounding priority.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's also a thing that's of interest to a lot of people within the town of Camden. Business owners, property owners, et cetera, so.
Okay, so now there's 6 more. And we get, what's priority number 2? Any
Ecosystem.
new votes for ecosystems?
I think the flooding fits right into that first one on number 1, climate resiliency plan, climate action plan. You know, I mean, that's all part of the same thing. And you're talking not just about the river, you're talking about the harbor, public landing, et cetera.
Are those plans something that need to be developed?
The climate
They're
action.
not here to ask us to do that.
No.
It's a big lift.
It's a really big.
I think there's definitely, there was a couple, I think in a couple different of these pages,
Yeah,
some legal questions.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think Rick may understand it because of his legal background, but I don't understand from a legal standpoint of permitting, state permitting, federal permitting, you know, PBRs, floodplain, who owns, you know, we got to do it again today as far as like who owns what dams, what the process is, because they're all different. You know, who owns the culverts, who owns other pinch points on the river, how much stuff can you do in the river? Because my guess is, I know like Steph's very excited about going, but my guess is if he grabbed an excavator tomorrow and started going to the river, he might get in trouble. Again, and I don't know who he gets in trouble with,
yeah.
is, I want to know.
So that
Yeah.
goes back to what are the guardrails?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, and it's hard because I don't think the guardrails are the same for each
No.
hydraulic event as we go up the river.
So in the state of Maine, Audrey, you would know probably, who owns the river? The state does, not the town.
But,
Nobody splits it
Any
down the middle.
submerged land in Maine is owned by the state.
Harbor's the same.
And that includes the water.
It includes the water, it includes fresh water. So, you know, on lakes and in the harbor, you're supposed to get submerged land leads when you have a structure over submerged land. However, for some reason.
And is that through, at a certain point, there's Army Corps of Engineers too.
That's for permitting. You have to permit through Army Corps of Engineers. This is different. This is a state program and Army Corps.
Correct, yeah.
The Megunticook River, particularly at the head of the harbor area, that for whatever reason, whatever happened in the past, there's no permits, there's no submerged land lease. There's no inspections of the structural condition of those buildings. There's buried oil tanks that DEP has absolved themselves of all responsibility for. There are utilities hanging under buildings, under the grid that are not maintained properly, and no one seems to take responsibility for them. We can't seem to, even if our code enforcement officer gets involved, there doesn't seem to be good places in either building code or state legislation or even town codes that we can point to about any of that. It's a real no man's land over there. So, yeah, and there's really bad stuff going on under the buildings when it comes to services, utilities, the conditions of them.
And I think it would also, that same legal question, I think would go forward as far as all of a sudden, if you had, we have entrapment of water in certain locations, and if that becomes more of a naturalized stream, you've created land that's not underwater, and where does that ownership?
Yeah.
Who does that go to?
I'm
And-
really curious about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I have a question. So usually when we do those, and I don't know, well, we've done big projects like that in town before. So we hire attorneys to do the legal work. I mean, or is it Bill Kelly or is it a town? So I'm just asking, so
I've asked Bill Kelly about this to answer all those questions,
Okay.
and he said that, typically, like, it would be somebody who would do like abstracts, and I guess there's not a lot of training for that. There's people around who do it, but it's not like a profession that, there's people in the pipeline to do it.
So
Would
maybe,
it help
maybe
if we check, if we created a list of the legal questions we have,
Sure.
would be a
I
start.
just think it's a good priority for us.
Yeah, but I'm thinking also.
What is our, like, legal implications of, sorry. I just
Or
wanna
no.
synthesize whatever.
Yeah, but I also might want to suggest to ground it in if we go ahead with one of the pilot projects then.
Yeah. and
Because
I
then
think
we'll have a practical
You're not
case.
gonna get like
Because
a
it's
black
gonna-
and white answer. on
Exactly.
Any of this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just like-
It's gonna be hard to do it without a case to apply it to.
And once you
So
start
maybe,
it
yeah.
also, I mean, I've done a lot of permitting and on really, really big projects, and you always think it's gonna be, we need these 6 permits and this is how it's gonna go. And then
17 at the end.
a lot of
I mean,
twists and turns.
if I could suggest something in regards to the legal issues, you might wanna reach out to people like, Laura Rose Day and, Georgia Ponte Clark and, other people who've been responsible for big river restoration, dam removal, fish passage projects.
Mhm.
And, from like soup to nuts, and ask them like, how did you handle the legal issues? And do it that way instead of trying to get, like, thinking that you're gonna get a lawyer to give you answers to every little thing, because you're just not going to, that is not gonna be a satisfying way to approach this.
Is that a lot of people have offered to come speak to us about lessons learned from their dam removal projects. Is that of interest?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, they,
The TNC, I think is a great.
yeah.
okay, so this is that for the legal part. Very good. Thanks, Sandra. So we need the third one, right?
Yeah.
Anyone have anything to nominate for
For
a
number
third priority?
Habitat connectivity and ecosystem.
So that one is not affiliated with any particular real spoke. Is
I
that
think
right?
it's the habitat connectivity and ecosystem health. I
Yes,
think it's some.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're trying to do?
The question is, do we need information now on that before we make recommendations to the
Yeah.
board?
Right.
Or do we have enough information on it?
And the reasons I want to go down and figure out what we think we know.
Oh, can
But
you
I think
speak,
we
sorry,
do,
can
I
you
think
speak
we need a
louder
lot
Yeah.
on this one, on the, yeah.
on six.
And isn't FB doing an analysis? I mean, they have the markers and.
Of the water.
The monitoring,
Water
Monitoring.
quality.
the
Some of it.
Megunticook Watershed Association, and we're assisting as needed.
Oh,
But they have taken
They do
over the
your own.
monitoring.
But it's also the two surveys of what's in the water and what's around it.
Yeah.
That we identified as being of importance.
That could be an 8
So Deb, in your
Yeah.
decision-making process,
That'd
do you
be
feel
great.
you need to know more about
That's what he.
current ecosystem and health of the river? Or do you need to know more about if projects went through the opportunities associated with the ecosystem?
But
Like,
I'm trying to get a picture of, this is where we are, and this is what a healthy system would look like. These are the components, and we have a general idea from the very first
Yeah.
presentation we had.
We have a really good speaker in mind for that. It's
Yeah.
Nathan Fury that I saw speak before. He's
Yeah, I just-
all about connectivity, and he's PhD fisheries biologist, and I always thought that would be
That could
great.
help us understand why beavers are important to birds.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think
I
that was,
see.
we got that question quite a bit for the NOAA event, it's like, why do fish matter? Like, why do we care to bring them into the ecosystem? And I think Matt gave a, primer, like, because it's part of the ecosystem, right? But like, I think we
Why
need
do we
to,
care about the river?
right, and so I think getting more information to be able to speak to that would be, that makes sense. And it seems to be a community priority.
Has anybody watched the Yellowstone video on how wolf changed the course of rivers? If you haven't, watch it.
So is habitat connectivity third priority?
Yes.
All in favor?
I'm sure I would put it third, but.
No, I mean,
No,
sorry.
no, so we have
They're
three,
not-
they're not,
I
the priorities are.
I know, I have 1, 2, 3, but.
Oh, and now the fourth, we're not gonna talk about fourth.
Because we're gonna do 3 for October, November, December.
I think we're trying to figure out how to
Yeah, right.
address these with the
Yeah.
speaker series or people coming in to discuss.
Between now and
Yeah.
December,
Right.
it's kind of work planning what we're gonna do between now and December.
I would just bring up the infrastructure management and maybe that is included in the flooding
Yeah.
part, but I think that's something that we really need to.
We're gonna do the same exercise again in
Oh, great.
December to keep on planning quarter by quarter. So
Right.
this is not the last time we're gonna go through this exercise, but it really helps us. And it helps FB finding speakers and documents and making sure that we answer your questions.
One thing that really wasn't on this list or anything is like, I really need to know more about fish ladders, how they work, different styles, what some of the issues have been, problems, the costs of installation and maintenance of them. It really wasn't on this list here, but I think that's something.
It was.
I think the lessons learned, I
Okay.
think the lessons learned,
We had,
one could incorporate that of how
Yeah.
can we, what
Right.
have people that have done
Right.
fish ladders, what have they learned? And that could be some homework that we do on our own, and so we
Yeah.
don't have to find
Okay.
stickers for all the
All right.
things, like,
Mhm.
what are the different options? What
Okay,
does it look
fine.
like? And there is some information in the feasibility study about the different types of
Yeah.
fish ladders and the benefits and drawbacks of each one. And I think they even make it pretty site specific, but
Yeah.
this could work well, but this site is
Mhm.
less ideal because of these reasons.
but let's tie that to Seth's project or starting to think about if we can have an interim pilot project.
Yeah, I
at
think
the
it's a
shelter
great idea.
and bundle that together, so it really, I think we did a lot of report reading, listening to people, watching PowerPoints. And I've noticed that every time we ground it in real case studies or go on site and talk to people, we gain much more knowledge, much more practical knowledge. So as much as we can, we should look at case studies, at pilot projects with fish ladders, at pilot projects moving down, so that we really get into the work that, a year ago we set on doing, right? It's been a year. So,
Could we have another category that's design options then? That would include lessons learned from other. Dam removal operations, or it would also include options for, like, ours is very specific situation, or, I mean, I just feel like that is, like Ray pointed out, it's a bit missing. I mean, it's there, it's in the aesthetics category, but that was lost on a lot of us.
so I'm gonna just repeat one more time. this is the work we're gonna do between now and December.
Yeah, right.
And we cannot do 7 priorities between now and December.
No, I'm not,
So,
I'm not saying, that. I'm
What
just
I'm
saying
saying
on
is
our
that-
gap analysis, should we create?
but we have
Another-
infrastructure management in the gap analysis. We've
No,
just,
I'm saying the design options would be another category or something like that. So we don't have lessons learned in the gap analysis, do we?
but so design options are gonna be, those options are gonna be happening in the course of managing the grant. So I'm not sure that if we created a category for design options, that we're creating something that's not already integrated in the grant work we're doing. You see what I mean?
Maybe I have the right phrase, maybe I'm confusing. them by using that phrase. I mean, I'm talking about lessons learned from other experiences. And then, options like, what are the options for fish ladders? What are
Okay.
the, different options that we have out there on the table so that we can give recommendations later on what we think the best options are.
Could we do that after these first 3? Or do you want to?
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, the big picture gap analysis, it feels like that's a little bit,
Yeah.
something that's missing,
Yeah.
like.
So,
obvious.
examples of what,
This isn't the total.
an example,
Right.
Courtney,
Yeah, I'm talking bigger
like-
picture. I
like-
should have explained that.
Okay.
what would a partial dam removal look like and what did it look like on this river? Was that kind of what you're getting at, that type of
Yeah, I think
design?
eventually we're gonna need to talk.
Or this
a lot
type of
about that.
fish passage
Yeah.
worked here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Couldn't we look at the ones that we know that are either nearby or even up down east? And ask all those questions. They did it, this is the kind of fish passage or multiple ones. What is the cost
Right.
of doing it? What is the cost of maintaining it? Because we have live examples just in the state.
Right. And one thing we've talked about, and we'll keep working on it, is having a panel discussion with another community speaking to us, and your committee can ask them questions about going through the process. So that's very much on the table, and it sounds like that's interesting to everybody.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the next 3 months. So where does Seth's recommendation live? Because I think it would be an amazing thing to actually get fish up into the river and see that happening. If we can do that in some kind of a temporary way, that might be pretty impactful on everything else we have to say.
So I think, my understanding is that we took Seth's recommendation out of the 3
Mhm.
big packet, and we're creating a category with some,
Okay,
to see if we can make that.
maybe it's with that grant, the pilot money.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
it's with-
I'm gonna follow up with Matt Bernier and ask what.
So I can answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, great.
So Alan, the man who's in here, he left early.
Mhm.
He was like all raring and ready to go to like truck fish in his pickup truck and then release them into the lake. And DEP said, I think we love your enthusiasm. You will find a permit. So there's like a very simple permit that you can get to do that. And people do it all that, like there are places where they do it all the time.
Work fine.
Yeah. So it's like a pretty simple, sorry, not DEP, DMR.
DMR, yeah.
Just a pretty simple
Mhm.
process through DMR to be able to do that.
Okay.
And the other communities that do these sorts of program or have programs where they do this all throughout the state.
But we're not dropping Seth. Seth has a category with.
Okay,
Yeah. That's immediate.
Yeah, thank you, that's
Just
helpful.
the funding of it is.
Yeah, we'll have to figure
Because
it
it
out.
would take money, right, Seth? To do the kinds of things you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily.
That's what I was wondering. So this could be a volunteer effort
Sure.
if the right permissions and permits.
Yeah, just don't wanna preclude any possibilities.
Right.
Yeah, volunteer could work.
Well, it'd be interesting to work toward this for next spring for migration. I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think if
Come
we,
up with some plans.
right, if we come up with something like this and people see that this is happening before the vote next
I
November.
agree, I can't say it again.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, to the extent that permitting is required for whatever we do to achieve those things, or recommend that we do with those things. Maybe we keep that in the near term agenda list.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of a river fest. We get volunteers together in April or the end of March to do something like this.
Yeah, really, really neat.
Yeah.
Awesome, all right. It's 1 minute after 6, so super cool meeting. Thank you all for, again, putting your passion, enthusiasm, thinking that who's my next co-chair, vice chair.
The alphabet.
It's you. So all the things you want to talk about, Courtney. And do we have the date for the next meeting? Can we
October
just-
10th, I think.
October 10th,
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
You, usually we're.
We can.
No, because we're not the first Tuesday.
We need to vote to adjourn.